Hello everyone. It's time to resume our reading of The Hobbit. Last week we learned about what a hobbit was, and we met this guy. His name is Bilbo Baggins, and he lives in a hobbit hole. Do you remember looking at those pictures of houses and hobbit holes last week? We looked at round doors and rectangle doors. Well, today we're going to meet a wizard. This is Gandalf, and he is a very important wizard in our story. And so I'm wearing my wizard wear to tell today's story. And when we're done reading, you're going to be looking at some pictures of wizards and hobbits and seeing if you can tell how they're different. When we last left off, we had just learned about Bilbo, and we learned a little bit about his house. Today we're going to begin. By some curious chance, one morning long ago in the quiet of the world, when there was less noise and more green, and the hobbits were still numerous and prosperous, and Bilbo Baggins was standing at his door after breakfast, smoking an enormous long wooden pipe that reached nearly to his woolly toes, neatly brushed. Gandalf came by. Gandalf! Remember, I showed you a picture. There's Gandalf. Look at him. He seems a little mysterious. If you had heard only a quarter of what I have heard about him, and I have only heard very little of all there is to hear, you would be prepared for any sort of remarkable tale. Tales and adventures sprouted up all over the place wherever he went in the most extraordinary fashion. He had not been down that way under the hill for ages and ages, not since his friend the old Took died. In fact, the hobbits had almost forgotten what he looked like. He had been away over the hill and across the water on business of his own since they were all small hobbit boys and hobbit girls. All of that unsuspecting Bilbo saw that morning was an old man with a staff. Oh, I almost forgot. Wizards have a staff. He had a tall, pointed blue hat and a long gray cloak, a silver scarf over which his long white beard hung below his waist, and immense black boots. "Good morning," said Bilbo, and he meant it. The sun was shining and the grass was very green, but Gandalf looked at him from under long bushy eyebrows that stuck out further than the brim of his shady hat. "What do you mean?" he said. "Do you wish me a good morning? Or do you mean that it is a good morning whether I want it or not? Or that you feel good this morning? Or that it is a good morning to be good on?" "All of them at once," said Bilbo, "and a very fine morning for a pipe of tobacco out of doors into the bargain. If you have a pipe about you, sit down and have a fill of mine." "There's no hurry. We have all the day before us." Then Bilbo sat down on a seat by his door, crossed his legs, and blew out a beautiful gray ring of smoke that sailed up into the air without breaking and floated away over the hill. "Very pretty," said Gandalf, "but I have no time to blow smoke rings this morning. I am looking for someone to share an adventure that I am arranging, and it is very difficult to find anyone." "I should think so in these parts. We're plain quiet folk and have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things. Make you late for dinner. I can't think of what anybody sees in them," said our Mr. Baggins, and stuck one thumb behind his braces, it's like his suspenders, and blew out another ring of smoke. Then he took out his morning letters and began to read, pretending to take no more notice of the old man. He had decided he was not his sort, and wanted him to go away. But the old man did not move. He stood leaning on his stick, gazing at the hobbit without saying anything, till Bilbo got quite uncomfortable and even a little cross. "Good morning," he said at last. "We don't want any adventures here, thank you. You might try over the hill or across the water." By this he meant the conversation was to come to an end. "What a lot of things you do use good morning for," said Gandalf. "Now you mean that you want to get rid of me, and that it won't be good until I move off." Not at all, my dear sir. Let me see. I don't think I know your name." Yes, my dear sir, and I do know your name, Mr. Bilbo Baggins, and you do know my name, although you don't remember that I belong to it. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me." To think that I should have lived to be a good morning by a belladonna took son, as if I was selling buttons at the door. Gandalf, Gandalf, good gracious me! Not the wandering wizard that gave old Took a pair of magical diamond studs that fastened themselves and never came undone until ordered. Not the fellow who used to tell such wonderful tales at parties about dragons and goblins and giants and the rescue of princesses and the unsuspected luck of widows' sons. Not the man that used to make such particularly excellent fireworks. I remember those. The old Took used to have them on Midsummer's Eve. Splendid! They used to go up like great lilies and snapdragons and laburnums of fire and hang in the twilight all evening. You will notice already that Mr. Baggins was not quite so prosy as he liked to believe. Also that he was very fond of flowers. Dear me, he went on, not the Gandalf who was responsible for so many quiet lads and lasses going off into the blue for mad adventures. Anything from climbing trees to visiting elves or sailing ships, sailing to other shores. Bless me, life used to be quiet you used to upset things badly in these parts once in a time. I beg your pardon, but I had no idea you were still in business. Where else should I be? Said the wizard. All the same, I am pleased to find you remember something about me. You seem to remember my fireworks kindly at any rate, and that is not without hope. Indeed, for your old grandfather Took's sake, and for the sake of poor Belladonna, I will give you what you asked for. I beg your pardon. I haven't asked for anything. Yes, you have, twice now. My pardon. I give it to you. In fact, I will go so far as to send you on this adventure. Very amusing for me, very good for you, and profitable too. Very likely, if you ever get over it. Sorry, I don't want any adventures, thank you. Not today. Good morning, but please come to tea anytime you like. Why not tomorrow? Come tomorrow, goodbye. With that, the hobbit turned and scuttled inside his round green door and shut it as quickly as he dared, not to seem rude. Wizards, after all, are wizards. What on earth did I ask him to tea for? He said to himself as he went to the pantry. He had only just had breakfast, but he thought a cake or two and a drink of something would do him good after his fright. Gandalf, in the meantime, was still standing outside the door, laughing long but quietly. After a while, he stepped up, and with the spike of his staff, he scratched a queer symbol on Bilbo's beautiful green front door. Then he strode away. Just about the time Bilbo was finishing his second cake and beginning to think that he had escaped adventures very well. We will stop there for today. We will find out soon if Bilbo managed to escape adventures. So today in our activity, we are going to be looking at wizards and hobbits. There's our hobbit. He's got some curly hair on top of his head. Hobbits are short. We learned that last week. They're only about half the size of a man. And there's our wizard, and wizards are tall. And for fun, if you would like, you can dress up like a wizard too. Here's what you need. First, you're gonna need a blanket or a large bath towel will work. Get someone to help you and just wrap it around, kind of hang the corners down, and look at my wizard sleeve. The next thing you need to dress like a wizard is a staff. Now I have this staff, but you could use a broom or a mop handle or pretty much any long pole. So this will be your staff. And then the last thing you need to be a wizard is a pointy hat. Now you might have a pointy hat laying around your house, and if you do, that is wonderful. But if you don't, I'm going to show you really quickly how you can make a pointy hat. You can start with a piece of newspaper or a piece of art paper. And all we're going to do is we are going to fold this around into the shape of a cone. Here we go. And make a nice pointy hat to wear. There's my pointy wizard hat. Get a little piece of tape to hold it in place. And now I have my wizard hat, my staff, and my cloak. So find someone to help you, and you can make your own wizard costume. It's been a great time reading with you today. Tune in next week and we'll find out what happens when Gandalf comes to tea.